Hello students, good morning. We are going to see today what is the information for the embedded questions. As we saw in as a previous information, well, we have an embedded question. It's a question that is inside a sentence or another question to make it more formal. And when we use this, we use different ideas that we can include as an extra information. So first, we need to identify that we have two types of questions in English. We have yes/no questions and we have information questions. And my yes/no questions, okay, remember that they always begin with do or with does in simple present tense, or with the verb be when it's simple present tense. Okay, so I'm going to start first with the simple present tense, so you understand how the structure works. So you need to think that it's a sentence now. Remember that in English, in many of the occasions when we use questions, we change the order of the pronoun, okay? But in this case, because it is a sentence, we have to return to the order of a sentence, even if it's a question. So the introductory words or the phrases that we are going to be using to do an embedded questions are different, okay? There can be many, okay? And for example, I'd like to know, this is one of the forms of an introductory question to do an embedded, okay? So I like to know, and then because it is a yes/no question, I'm going to use if, okay? I like to know if, and then I'm going to think of a sentence, okay? Remember that in a sentence, in simple present tense, you don't need the auxiliary do. So the auxiliary do is eliminated, okay? And then I think of simple present tense, okay? So if you drink soda. So you say we eliminate do, and then I use like normal sentence, okay? You drink soda. It's a normal sentence in simple present tense. Where we have the auxiliary does, remember, the rule for simple present tense in the he, she, it pronouns is that you need to include the s at the end of the verb. So I wonder, for example, I wonder if, I'm going to use if because it is a yes/no question, okay? And then I use the pronoun, and then my verb, I have to conjugate it in simple present tense. So I wonder if he plays, okay? I eliminate does because the auxiliary, I have to eliminate it, but then I need to conjugate the verb. So I wonder if he plays soccer, okay? And then in the following question, is he a doctor? This is with the verb be, okay? And remember that when we're using the verb be, we have to invert the order of the verb be and the pronoun to do a question. So when I'm going to do an embedded question, then I need to return it into the correct order of a sentence, okay? So tell me, okay, if, because it's a yes/no question, and then he is, because I'm going to return as a sentence, he is a doctor. Okay? That is the order of a sentence, okay? Again, I don't know, for example, if, okay, and again, are they students? It's a question, but remember, because it is of the verb be, we have to change the order of the verb be and the pronoun to make a question. But then if it's a sentence, I need to return it to the normal order of a sentence. So if they are students. Okay, so this is how we are going to be transforming yes/no questions in simple present tense. What happens if I use past tense? For example, did they go to the movies? Okay, so I wonder what I'm going to do in past tense. I eliminate the auxiliary did, because in a sentence in past tense, we don't use auxiliary did unless we are emphasizing, so it's a different thing. So I wonder if, I'm going to use if because it's a yes/no question, okay? And then I'm going to think of the order of a sentence. So pronoun first, if they. Now I have the verb go. But because we have the auxiliary did, remember this is past tense, so I need to change the verb into past tense in order to do this type of question. So past tense of the verb go, it's went to the movies. Okay, so these are the changes that I need to do, okay, in order to transform a sentence, yes, no question, in past tense into an embedded question. If it's in present perfect, for example, when we use auxiliary have we traveled to Rome in this case, okay? So I can't remember if, okay, remember we use if, okay? And then again, in the auxiliary have, when we have present perfect, when we have question, we invert the order of the auxiliary. So if it's a sentence, it means that I have to return it to the proper order of a sentence. So it means that the pronoun is going to be first. If we have traveled to Rome. Okay, so this is an example of a yes/no question. Even if we use has, which in this case, it won't be changes like in simple present tense that we actually add yes, okay? Has she eaten sushi, for example, okay? Can you tell me, and this is another form to do an embedded question to make it more formal, but this is actually a question. I have to write down a question mark, okay? Can you tell me if, it's a yes/no question, if she has eaten sushi? So you see, I'm going to change has she for she has because it's now a sentence. Okay, so this is how we are going to be transforming yes/no questions into embedded questions. Now, we are going to continue with the information questions. What is the characteristic of an information question? Well, is that we are going to start these questions with where, with a question word. Where, when, what, who, which, how, okay? And they're called WH questions in some of the cases because, well, they begin normally with WH, instead only the exception is how, okay? So these are information words, information question words. So in this case, where do we study English is an information question, okay? And how are we going to transform this into an embedded question? Well, in this case, I'm not going to use if, I'm going to use directly the question word. And again, I'm just going to think as a sentence, not the structure of a question. So it means that when we have, for example, the verb be, we are going to change the correct order of the verb, okay? And then we are going to see how the changes go. So we're going to begin with simple present tense. So for example, I wonder where, again, not if, where. I eliminate do because in a sentence we don't use do, okay? Unless we are going to emphasize, again, I said that already, but not in these cases, okay? So where, and then where we study English, okay? So, and as you see, I'm going to use a question word and then I continue with this with the same idea to make a question, but it's a question inside this sentence, okay? When does he go to the mall? So tell me when, okay, again, no if, when. And now the same rule as the yes/no questions, because it is an auxiliary does, because we have the pronoun he, it means that the verb is going to be conjugated in simple present tense. So tell me when He goes, okay, that is the conjugation of simple present tense with go to the mall, okay? Where is the medicine? Now you see, I have the verb be here, okay? So, could you tell me where the medicine is? I'm going to move the verb be at the end because I'm going to think that this is a sentence, remember? And with the verb be, we change the order of the pronoun. So that's why I say the medicine is, okay, like a sentence, remember. In the cases of past tense, where did they buy the jacket, okay? And then again, so I'd like to know where, sorry, I'd like to know where. I'm going to eliminate the auxiliary did, okay? But then I'm going to transform the verb into the past tense because it is a past tense, okay? So where they bought, okay, the jacket, okay? So this is the sentence that we need to transform, okay, into the past tense. And then what did she bring for the party, okay? I wonder, okay, what she, again, did is eliminated, and then the past tense of bring, which in this case will be brought, okay, for the party, and then a period. And then in this case, for example, if I want to use the verb be in past tense, okay, in case I want to use the verb be in past tense, okay, what I can do is that I use my question, for example, when were they when were the students in the class, okay? If you see, I have the verb be. Remember that we change the order of the verb be when we have a question. So if it's a sentence, then it means that I'm going to return it to the original order. So I'd like to know, okay, when the students, okay, were in the class. Okay, so as you see, I changed the order in order to make a sentence now, not a question. Okay, so this is what is different when we are transforming a sentence here. I like to know when the students were in the class. And because I have this complement, then of course the verb be finishes or is there before the complement of a sentence, okay? And then when it's the case of present perfect, okay, can you tell me, okay, why the same, we change the order of the sentence with the auxiliary in present perfect. So why we have worked in the project, okay? And then in the last one, again, present perfect is the same, just change the order of a sentence and that's it, okay? So I don't know who he has visited lately. Okay, so as you see, these embedded questions are not so complicated when you see them, I think, in sentences like this or in written. Sometimes when you're in talking about this or using them, this is when it becomes a little bit more complicated, but this is practice, practice, and practice. So the more you practice, the better you get. So this takes a little time to get into this type of questions because we are so used to having the same order of a structure in a yes/no question or an information question that when we transform this into an embedded question, it's like, what? Now it's a sentence, but it's a question. So that's why it becomes a little bit confusing, but it's not. Okay, I guess the ones that can be a little bit complicated is the ones in past tense, because you have did, and then you need to transform the verb. Okay, I don't know, did she drive a car? And I'd like to know if she drove a car. So in this case, that's why you need to practice in order to make this an immediate question, and you have to think about it so much, okay? And then when it's does, this is where probably the word changes the most in simple present tense, okay? So does she read the newspaper? Okay, so I wonder if she reads the newspaper. So I guess this is the only one that takes a little bit effort, but otherwise the rest can be just, you know, again, concentrated that they are sentences, not a structure of questions anymore. Well, good luck, keep practicing, and I hope that you have understood this information better. Okay, bye.